Today is Thursday, 4th of December. We're here in the court in Leeuwarden, where we're following the case of the Dutch state against the Dutch lawyer Arno van Kessel. Together with him, there were two other suspects in the court, so to say. I'm here with RicoBrouwer from Podcasts. Actually, we're here together. My name is Jamila Lepere, and we've both been in the room with the video link to the real courtroom. And we've seen a remarkable defense of three lawyers for three of the suspects. Rico, do you want to say what your impressions were?
We're only halfway through the day, so I thought we were going to break for lunch. I'm going to ask you a question, but we're not allowed to go out. Just to give you an impression of where we are. There's a big fence, police officers, and say you can leave, but you can't come back. So we're not allowed to get lunch. It's a criminal case. There were actually four lawyers. One of the suspects had two lawyers. And then after lunch, although we're not going to lunch, there's going to be two other suspects also. So it's a combined case of five. In the Netherlands, so these guys have not been convicted. They're awaiting trial. So it's just an investigative period. And in the Netherlands, every 6 weeks, you have to have another pro forma hearing to see if detention can be extended.
Yeah, it's important to say that they haven't been tried, they haven't been accused, and they have been imprisoned since the 11th of June in a terrorist section of our most strict and severest prison in the south of Holland.
So what was argued that the case was very thin, and they were already detained a long time. Now it's been a half a year, and what was argued here by the lawyers is that nothing much had changed. So the case wasn't extended by the public prosecutor. And
what I found remarkable is that nothing had changed, but the amount of pages to their dossiers had tripled in the case of lawyer van Kessel. They have added 600 pages to his file, repeating the same things three times. Just saying exactly the same. There's no new information.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that. What was also argued was the conditions of these suspects.
Personal conditions.
Personal conditions. They're losing their company, their livelihood. I mean, these are self-employed people that have not been able to do their job for the last 6 months, and are now facing bankruptcy, breaking up of families, children that get harassed on the square in front of their schools, for their father being a terrorist.
Yeah, they're accused of being part of an anti-institutional organization, which implies terrorism. And all three of the so-called suspects have argued that there is neither an organization nor is there any planning. And leading in all this is one conversation in a car that was tapped or taped or whatever. It's on the 6th of May. And that sort of declares them, says that they are in an organization.
Well, yeah, that justifies them being detained for 6 months and the investigation to be prolonged. Now, I don't know the precise English wordings of these legal entities, but the police judge, the rechtercommissaris in this investigative judge, he's still sitting apparently on evidence. And the public prosecutor that's making the case here that these guys need to be detained for another 6 weeks says, yeah, we've only recently gotten some of the information to base our case on. So we need more time, at least 6 weeks more. But then there's good news. In another 3 months, we'll probably have the case finished. So in 3 months, we might finally start prosecuting these people. Another 3 months on a very thin case. And in the case of one of these suspects, it was argued that there is nothing. He was in the car. So yes, admittedly, he was in the car, but he didn't say anything wrong in that car. So why is he being detained? He's losing and by the way, he's losing his job. His company is going bankrupt, and he's losing his family.
The other very...
These people are being tortured in this prison regime, and they feel very unsafe. One of them argued that, this is the case, I am very unsafe, but if you make me go to a less heavy regime in between criminals, I'd rather be in isolation maybe. This is psychological torture. That's what.
He was in an isolation part of the terrorist department. They offered him to go to a more open space of that same terrorist department. He didn't want to go, but they then talked him into it, where he is now. But he is not getting any help. So he, for example, he lost a crown. Well, they can't help him because he's in pretrial detention, and then you don't get those services. He needs an operation. He is not getting a specialist to look at him. He gets psychologists, but so far he's had 3 talks with 3 different psychologists, and they only listen. They don't offer anything. And
the thing is, yeah, you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. Now they are not being tried just yet. They can't even defend themselves because they're not being prosecuted yet right now. It's just all pre-crime investigation. Normally you would be able to await trial in freedom. That's what's at stake here. We're only halfway through. I feel the guy on the left, his detention has to stop. He was only in the car. There was nothing else. And the other ones, and that's what the court session started with, gas masks were found at his home. Well, we're both journalists. We're reporting on demonstrations. If I had I do not have a gas mask, but if I could have one, I would bring one as a journalist for the tear gas and stuff against demonstrators. And it's not illegal to have one of those.
Well, the story is much more absurd. This guy had bought 2 army chests from a dump, from an army dump, and he liked the chest. He wanted one in his living room and one in the room for his daughter. But the guy selling the chest wanted to sell them with content because he just wanted to get rid of the stuff. In one of them were the gas masks that he then put in the attic. Never used them. I mean, he wanted the chests, and now he's accused of having gas masks and therefore being a member of a terrorist organization. But what was also interesting in his case, or astounding, is that a lot of the sentences that are dodgy, so they take a couple of sentences that people said and then said, see, that proves that you had bad intentions. Apparently, those same sentences are attributed to different suspects, exactly the same sentence, although they were said once. What they are also doing is saying, you possess this stuff, you possess gas masks, and because you're associated with so-and-so, in effect, they also possess the same stuff. So they say the same things and they possess the same stuff. It all makes up this evidence. It is, I mean, they need to be in an organization to do this. I mean, how do you say it? The public prosecutor is creating an organization to build this case.
That's what's, for us as journalists, for me as journalist, makes this case interesting. What you see here, and I feel for these suspects. I mean, these are heartbreaking stories. But as a journalist, it's interesting to see the fear apparently in the Dutch state for people who are thinking for themselves. There is no case, but they dare not release them. I don't even think it's an example being set with these people, but it's just they fear people thinking for themselves more than anything.
Well, I think it all comes back to the case that Arno van Kessel was doing against Bill Gates and all the politicians, because he had a very powerful plea for himself. He had a very powerful statement. He said already in the beginning of Corona, he felt something was going wrong because legally what happened was not all right. And so he started investigating things. He also had clients come to him for help, people who were not only injured by the jabs, but beforehand by the measures done for Corona. So he then started to build a case. And because that was so much work and because of the severity of things, he had already planned with his wife, he told us today, to retire early. And they would put a lot of their energy into doing this case, but in the same time, they were preparing to move abroad. So they had already sold their house, they had everything packed up in boxes, they had traveled a lot to find the spot that they wanted to move to. And so he wanted to do this case and then go. And it is exactly this case that they needed something, is my interpretation. They needed something to jail him or to get him, just like they did with Vermeer, just like they do with many people. And the other people in the car are just very unlucky
To have been in the
to have been in a car, but they are building a case just around this one car drive. And they're also saying, yeah, you had planned to blow up NATO when there was a NATO summit here. But what we now learned from one of the lawyers is that the sound recording that they have started with the news on the radio in the car.
And we all know there was a NATO summit in the Netherlands. So
and the news reported on the NATO summit. And so therefore they talked about the NATO summit.
what you do when you're in a car. You reflect on the news that you hear, oh, there's a NATO summit. That was big news in the Netherlands. It cost us loads of money.
And it was another kind of lockdown for the people right next to the NATO summit. But anyway, it's all this. It's a very strange case, and I'm very glad to say that all lawyers were strong. I found they were all, I think, equally astounded about the working way of the public prosecutor. And what you said, the mere fact that the investigative judge still hasn't passed on all the stuff, or that's what they claim.
So not only can you not defend yourself, I mean, you're not being tried just yet, you cannot even make, you don't see the files. One of the lawyers said, well, it's going to be a year. And then the public prosecutor said, well, no, you're exaggerating. It's not a year. Well, yes, it is a year. It's going to take a year at least before you're convicted. Yeah. And that's the problem. The crime that they're possibly accused of, once the case has been made by the public prosecutors, has a maximum penalty of 12 years. Now the case has thinned. So the possible crime that they're possibly being prosecuted from, but you can't even spell it out, is carried a maximum sentence of 12 years. Well, that is off the table. That's what was argued by the lawyers. It's not a 12-year crime anymore. It's a reduced crime. And then 6 months in pre-detention just to await your trial is way too much, because you're never going to be convicted to a 6 months prison time.
And the one guy who was only in the car, that was his biggest crime, he's in prison for half a year, whereas if he were to be found guilty of what they accuse him of, he would only have community service, or at the most 4 weeks in prison. So it's really sour.
Yeah, for us it's sour that we're not allowed to film inside. I was allowed to bring this camera, so we're on the square in front of the courtroom. Bring my camera in, and we had to put it in a different room and all that, but we're not allowed to film these court sessions, so that's frustrating for us. We used to do that for dozens of court cases. To my understanding, there was no other journalistic outlet in the Netherlands that requested film permission. Could be wrong there, but at least the local broadcasting company of where we are here in Leeuwarden didn't request it. There are some writing journalists, so there is some mainstream attention. Everybody had to register, though court system in the Netherlands, it's open, it's public, right? Just like it should be.
Yeah, I think that's an important point to point out. Beforehand, it was said that whoever wanted to attend the hearing had to register with them. So you have to give your name and details.
Prove your ID.
Then we come here, you have to show your passport or ID, and you get a little thing. And then you're, according to the color of your wristband, you're divided over whether you see the video or the real thing, and whether you're press. And so anonymity, and to be anonymous here is impossible. And also they only had 60 seats, they said, available for the audience.
In all fairness, if you review your report of the hearing 6 weeks ago, there was some kind of chaos here. There's very much public attention, and not everybody was allowed in. I could get in. Yeah, that was for lack of their organization. But today there's all fences, and you had to pre-register. But the courtrooms were half empty. There must have been 40 seats open. So I don't know if people.
But we do live in 2025, so they could have provided a live stream, but they didn't do that either.
No, no, exactly. So.
The one funny anecdote was that Arno van Kessel, he had his declaration, whatever he wanted to read out, and the judge asked him, do you have any copies for me? And Arno van Kessel very politely said, I'm very sorry, Your Honor, but I don't have a printer in my cell at the moment, so I have to just read it out. And then he and his lawyer, they had very powerful speeches, and the audience wanted to clap, And the judge then said, no, 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 no clapping here. This is not a theater.
In the breakout room, the people were applauding that, so the regime was relaxed, more relaxed there. But we're not a theater, is what the judge said. We're not a theater, you're not allowed to applaud the speech.
All right, Rico, let's go find a sandwich somewhere.
We can't find a sandwich here. We are not allowed to go out. We can find a bag of crisps and a cup of coffee. That's all that we have to get to.
Thank you very much. It's about 6 o'clock now. We're standing outside the court in Leeuwarden. We just had 2 sessions of hearings, one in the morning with 3 suspects, one in the afternoon with 2 suspects. And then we had a sort of short late afternoon session where the judge decided whether the 5 suspects could go home while they awaited their trial. What did you make of the day? The rest of the day.
Yeah. So we during lunch, that was our summary. People have just seen that. We saw the other 2 suspects. That was slightly a different case from the 3 before.
But it was the same assumption of being member of the same organization, which then would be a terrorist organization, except their so-called crimes was.
The question was asked, what organization then? Like the basic questions. So we're a member of a criminal organization, but that organization has not been named or identified. So what am I a member of? And there was this guy who has sold guns, and his lawyer said, yeah, okay, that was illegal, so it's okay to keep him for that. But
only one was illegal.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only one.
No, he sold guns, but only one of the guns was illegal.
Okay, I misunderstood you. And the other one did security at an event. Right, yes. So that's what he was.
Yeah, the bouncer.
The bouncer, yeah, exactly. And so he is now here because he was bouncer on the event, and he had some things at home, and he said, "Yeah, I'm a prepper. Yeah. I feel unsafe." And by the way, in the Netherlands currently, everybody's being informed by our government that you're supposed to prepare for massive power outages and food not being available. So that's what I do. And by the way, our Prime Minister, our former Prime Minister Mark Rutte, is actively advocating a war with Russia. So our current Prime Minister, we're tired, both of us are tired, and we're trying to recapture what was said inside. And Dick Schoof, our current Prime Minister, has said that chemical warfare might be in the air, something like that. So yeah, obviously I have a gas mask at home. Yeah, and then the verdict was said. That was the session that we just had, half-hour verdict, and it didn't match the court sessions that we had during the day.
Nobody was released. No one of the 5, and it was said. Well, basically, the judge just repeated the claims or the accusations of the public prosecutor and said, "Well, we're not talking about the." The validity of this, the proof will come later. We don't know when that hearing will be, but for now the accusations still hold, which is of course they will hold because they've been written down, so they will hold until.
The point was made today that nothing would change when these people would await their trial in freedom. Innocent until proven guilty. So what's the problem then? The judge said they are going to remain in prison until February 20th. That's the plan at least. But we will have an investigation if they might be released then to await trial. So.
And one of the suspects already had an investigation. There was already a report, and his lawyer had said there's no need for an additional report, but the judge ordered an additional report. Yeah. And I thought it was quite cynical that the judge said at the end, but so we don't know, we'll see if the next hearing you can go free with this electronic device on your leg and blah, 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 but we can't guarantee it, but we'll keep our eye on progress.
So that's it?
That's
we
it.
To go home. There's a bunch of broken
families,
suspects is what I'm going to say, was not taken into account. Judge didn't say anything about that. People are going bankrupt, losing their house, the livelihood, that was not mentioned. Yeah. So that's the end of that.
No, that's a good point. There were quite some emotional parts in it about family members not coping, children, they themselves not coping with health, and the judge didn't react once. None of the judges asked questions about it. There was no emotion.
no personal circumstances. So we get to go home. We're the lucky ones.
Thank you very much, RicoBrouwer.
Het gaat hier vandaag over saamhorigheid.
We zien dingen
Niet normaal
verschillen.
maken wat niet normaal.
Every nation
Allebei
in
wel
every region
gelijk.
now has a decision.
Als we verder willen. En ik gewoon van
You think
jouw
I'm joking?
land bekijk.
Predator
Als
drones.
ik daar zie wat jij ziet.
You will never see it coming.
Respect is waar het begint. Als we
Laat staan dat ik
kunnen
kan ingaan over vuur.
wat sterker is, wint.